Hi everyone, I just wanted to do a brief video addressing PTSD because some of you out there may be suffering from some of the side effects or symptoms of PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder and it's caused after you experience a traumatic event. In this video, I just want to address traumatic loss. Traumatic loss is different than anticipatory loss in that traumatic loss is typically sudden, where your loved one was there and then the very next moment they're gone. And that leaves you feeling shocked, numb, with extreme anxiety and fear. Traumatic loss can cause post-traumatic stress because all of the symptoms that you typically feel with grief and loss are intensified. Some of these can be, like I said, shock, numbness, fear, anxiety, insomnia, where you're having trouble sleeping, and loss of appetite. It can also be where you want to isolate yourself socially from anyone and you don't want to talk about anything to do with the death. All of this can cause post-traumatic stress, which can hold you back on your grief journey, keep you from going forward. Sudden loss can be loss from a heart attack, a suicide, murder, or an accident. In case of a murder or an accident, a lot of times an investigation has to occur, and this can postpone your grief experience and cause complicated grief. All of this can lead to intensified grief symptoms, keeping you stagnant in your grief journey. A lot of times with traumatic loss, you deal with wanting to restructure the event where your loved one died, especially if you witnessed it. Oftentimes you might find yourself laying in bed thinking, if only I had done this, if only I had done that differently, my loved one would still be here. That's the bargaining stage of grief. And it's perfectly normal. Everybody who experiences grief goes through that. But with traumatic loss, you tend to stay stuck or stagnant in that phase, and that can lead to depression. Coping strategies help here. There are healthy coping strategies and coping strategies that might not be so healthy. And those unhealthy ones might be where you use illicit drugs, eat a lot of junk food, or consume a lot of alcohol because of that wanting to escape or just be numb from all feelings. And sometimes you might experience triggers where, especially if you lost your loved one, let's say driving in a car, but now you need to drive to get to places and you don't want to because it triggers. Things like that can happen. Or if you might watch a show on television that will trigger some of your feelings, or you hear a song. All of these are triggers. And then another one you might be dealing with are flashbacks. I struggled with flashbacks after the loss of my mom because I found her body. So there were times when I was inside my classroom teaching my students, and boom, I'd start to have a flashback. And I could feel my heart race, sweating starting to happen at my brow, and I could just, feel that I was losing control, and that was panic. There are all coping strategies that you can learn, tips that you can learn to get through all of these symptoms of PTSD. And I'm just going to share a few of them that I've learned. I wanted to share some with you. First of all, wanting to restructure the event where you lost your loved one or the traumatic experience you suffered. When I lost our little dog, Bee, she died right in front of me. She choked to death. I experienced sleepless nights where I would lay in bed thinking, oh, if I had done this, if I had done that, she'd still be alive. And then I would actually go all the way back to the beginning of the event and restructure it, hoping for a different outcome. That won't happen. And then some of you might be suffering that with a loved one you lost, or an assault that happened to you. You might think, as you go back and think about that event that happened, maybe if you had kicked him there or punched him there, you'd have a different result. That's perfectly normal to do that, but it's an act of futility because, as we know, you can never change the end result. The best way to handle such experiences I have found is to change your thinking. And I learned this through therapy. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and I highly recommend it because what this type of therapy does is that it equips you with tools to change your thinking. So at night, when I would start to have those restructuring ideas, if I could just go back and change this and change that, then my little dog would be alive. I always stop myself, change my thinking process, and remind myself to stay in the present. I tell myself, stop, stay in the present, stay in the now, stay in the present. And then I start to do the grateful list. I'm grateful for my home, my husband, he's in the other room, laughing at TV, or I'm grateful for my son being healthy. All these little things changes my thinking, and now I have control. I feel in control again, and I'm able to go to sleep. Another tip is for handling flashbacks. Like I said, when I would have those flashbacks in my classroom, I would feel panicked. What am I going to do? And I'd just be talking with the student, and then boom, the flashback would happen. Well, I learned this tip. This. By putting an elastic band on my arm, when I'd start to experience that flashback, I would just pull it and snap it. And that little feeling of pain would shock me and put me right back in the present moment. And then I would tell myself, stay in the present, stay in the present. And you might say, I don't feel comfortable talking to myself. Well, another way to do it is to write those feelings down. Write down your thoughts that you're having and go back and read them, and you'll see, oh my goodness, that's what I've been thinking. That's what I've been trying to process. No wonder I feel horrible. And then change your thinking. How can you change those thoughts from negative to positive? And right away, just remind yourself, my loved one's gone, but he or she's in a better place. No more pain, no more suffering. They want me to be happy. I'm in the present moment and I'm going forward. I'm in the present. I'm okay. And just reprocess your thought. Changing your thinking will help you get through those trigger moments, those flashbacks, and handle the negative thoughts by turning them into positive thinking. And you start to feel like you have control again. That's the key. Cognitive behavioral therapy also stresses healthy coping strategies that you can work on. Number one is writing down your feelings. If you don't feel like you can express yourself to others, write them down in a journal with the intention of no one else ever reading it but you. Write down what you're feeling. Express yourself. Creating something like artwork or music, poetry, a story can also help you deal with those negative feelings and thoughts and help you feel, take ownership again. Another one is exercise. Even if it's just going for a walk around the block, reconnecting with nature. Sometimes I just go for a walk and look at the trees and how beautiful they are, listening to the birds, right? And it calms me down. I like to go running. Running is a great way of getting rid of my anxieties, those toxins that have built up in my body through sweat. Maybe yoga is good for you. Getting in touch with nature, going for walks, doing yoga out in nature is very beneficial too. Deep breathing. Deep breathing exercises are very healthy too. They help your body to relax, especially at night if you're having trouble sleeping. Practice deep breathing and even tell yourself, relax, relax, and you'll find that it does work. And lastly, I just want to leave you with this bit of advice. PTSD after a traumatic experience does happen. It's not abnormal. It does happen, and you are not alone. There are many other people who are going through it too. No matter what your traumatic experience was, there's hope for you. You may say, no, I can't afford counseling. There's free resources for you. Just Google your state and look for trauma resources, Phoenix, trauma counseling, and all these free websites will pop up for you to get free counseling. Or maybe you don't want to do individual counseling. Maybe you want to be part of a group with like-minded individuals who have also experienced the same traumatic event that you suffered, whether it's a loss of a spouse or a child, parent, friend, or maybe you were involved in a sexual assault or something. There are various types of group settings that will match your need exactly. So Google them, find them, they're free, and you can be with like-minded individuals who have experienced what you've experienced and bounce ideas off of them, bounce coping strategies off of them, ask them what's worked for them. That way you can go forward. That's the key, friends. is to always be going forward on your grief journey, one step at a time. Thanks.